Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Quite a few things went down in this episode that we're going to have to break down. First of all, it's interesting seeing the whole Talbot situation. It's even something that May and Colson talked about. It's like, could you imagine, like, when we first met Talbot, to think that now we'd be worrying about him on such a level, like him potentially being the one who ended up destroying the world and everything. Which I'm so curious, like, how did it turn out to be like, oh, everyone thinking it was Daisy who was the destroyer of the world? Maybe because it's like I guess, whatever happens, her showdown with Talbot kind of leads to that. I mean, I don't know. Nevertheless, it is kind of crazy to think that Talbot would be where he is. He's sadly not in his right state of mind. And it's that decision that comes around everybody's head. It's like, what do we do about Talbot? It's like, we might not be able to talk to him because every attempt to try and talk to him, because he's just going more and more crazy, he ends up absorbing Creel this episode. So I wonder, is that just because... does that mean... I'm sure it was mainly because Creel touched some of the gravitonium, so it kind of flows in his veins. So... But I'm sure, like, for every person he absorbs, that's probably another person's voice that's in his head. But it seems like he kind of shuts out all the voices. So I don't know if that... Because I was wondering, does that mean he has access to Creel's powers? But it's not like Creel's powers will really do him any good, considering, like, can't no one really do anything against Talbot in the state that he's in. He goes to his wife, Carla, and his son, George, but... they're terrified of him, because even George, because he's like, oh, I'm a hero, I'm gonna fix everything, because that's what he's driven by, thinking that he can be... Basically, it takes the good intentions that he has. Like I said, he was already in a very messed up state. Like, it's hard to say whether it's his mind state that he was already in because of what Hydra did to him that led to things being to where they are now, or whether, like, the gravitonium would still have the same effect on him anyway. I mean, we saw what it kind of did to Ruby anyway, so... like I said, I think the reason why the voices haven't taken over and the reason why he's in control is legitimately because he's kind of a little more crazy, and his mindset, kind of his mind being broken in the sense it was, I think, kind of gave him what he needed to kind of keep them all in line. You can't break something that's already broken, I guess. It's kind of like the mindset, so then the question becomes like, well, he is trying his best. Obviously, he won't be the means of taking out Thanos, obviously, but it's still that situation of he's still going to try. He's just, look, I'm going to be the hero that saves the world and everything. Obviously, he needs more gravitonium to do that. And in all honesty, who knows? That might even make him worse than he already is, which is kind of hard to believe, but hey. Interesting thing about this episode, too. Coulson, I don't think he ever made much of a fuss about it, but he switched out his arms because he had, like, more power in his arm. Obviously, he made his shield this episode. I love the fact like, he was kissing May and, like, shielding her at the same time. And even had Daisy stopping. She's looking at this happening like, okay. And then she goes back to fighting. And even at the end, you see Deacon kind of looking like, whoa, after the whole scene. So, but just like interesting, because remember, he didn't have that during the first half of the season, because that was a comment like, yeah, he just has a regular prosthetic arm, but he doesn't have the one that has all the fancy stuff. So it was kind of nice seeing it kind of pop up again. Like I said, they never made any comments about like, oh yeah, he got it hooked up again. Maybe they didn't, I just don't remember, but you would have thought they would have made more of a big thing about it, that he had his special, because I didn't think about, because when he was kind of x-raying the wall, I didn't think about it. I was like, right, because obviously at some point in time he switched arm. Like, this is the first time he's done any special stuff with it so far this season, so it's just kind of interesting. A lot of stuff. There's a whole situation with Deacon. For one, Davis tells that story again to Deacon, and Deacon's like, oh my god, that's awesome. Like, oh my god, come on, you're amazing. It's like, we will never hear this story, will we? Is it something that we as the audience know and that he's just retelling? Because even the dude that was with them, Agent Kim, was kind of like, yeah, dude, I literally hear this story all the time. He told a story not last week's episode, like the episode before last, to God, what's that other agent's name? Piper, right? And so it makes me wonder, like, because it's like, oh, how many people know that story? It's kind of like, well, he never bothered telling anyone because it's not like it's important enough to kind of tell everyone, because they kind of got their own issues to deal with. So it's just always funny to me. Even Deacon's kind of marking out about the story. So, But I love it. It's like, okay, so which direction do we go? Like Deacon rescues May and Golson, and then they're kind of like, okay, so which way do we go? He's like, honestly, I can't read this. It's like, what do you mean you can't read it? He's like, I don't know what. It's not like they ever told us the language. I mean, the whole point was to kind of keep humans stupid in the future. Anyway, he's like, dude, all I know is up to the number 5. It's like, you only know 5 numbers. He's like, no, I know 0. So actually, I know 6 numbers. But the fact of the matter is, it's not my fault. Hey, I'm still the one that came and rescued you guys, and you're the ones that led. Lost Daisy. Well, we didn't lose Daisy, and it's just like, I love that. Which Deacon's knowing, 0 through 5 actually helped in the long run. I was kind of hoping May was going to be able to finish off Kovacs, because all that talk of like, oh, you humans are weak, you need weapons to fight and stuff like that. It's like, nah, like May will prove you damn wrong. Like she talking about, oh, hell, humans need guns to be more powerful. It's like May kicks ass plenty of times without like a gun in hand. Like she can handle herself when it comes to melee and close quarters. Was kicking his ass. I was kind of hoping that she'd be the one to kind of shut him up, but in a way she was, because they basically turned the attack back on his ship. So he's done. Kovacs is done. So it's kind of interesting because he's the reason why I don't know if he would have been even enough to kind of pulled Talbot back from the edge where he is right now. He kind of pushed Talbot to that edge, but I doubt Talbot would have actually been pulled back by him. He probably would have been like, you're trying to step to me now? He wouldn't anyway. I think it's more a situation if he would have let Talbot kind of go loose. It's like he gets what he wants and Talbot gets what he wants. But to be fair, like, he's like, I'll take the gravitonium, but it's like, wouldn't Talbot just absorb it all? So like, if you wanted any, he'll probably change his mind at the last second and killed him anyway to get all the gravitonium. That's kind of how I feel about it. So a lot of things to kind of talk about. Obviously, Daisy poking fun at the fact this is like, yo, so you and May were making out. And after they had kissed and everything, she was like, yo, don't say anything, Agent Johnson. He's like, okay, sure thing, hot lips. So that's cool. I mean, it took them forever, but I'm glad that they finally, made out and everything. I was like, here we are. It took you long enough, because obviously you've had feelings for each other since like last season. You just never, I mean, you've probably had feelings for each other for a while, but it wasn't really until like last season that it really came up. And it took them till now, but they finally made out. So that's good. Kind of like sparking some happiness there. So, which obviously turns for the worst, because it's like, oh wait, now Coulson's situation is getting worse. It's interesting how that worked, because like when he was cut, he started bleed. Because like before, when he was stabbed, it looked like it was black, but this time his blood was red. So I guess that's representing all the like good cells in his body finally dying out, with all the blood coming out looking red. Because like before, when he had gotten stabbed, it was like black. So I thought it was from like the weapon itself, but it's like, well, maybe it was, but it seemed more so just maybe because this part of his body hadn't died yet. It's in a process of dying, hence why it was red, but also why it wasn't closing up, because like because the cells that would normally heal stuff like that over time and close up a wound are dying for him. So Coulson's severely running out of time, and the decay of his body is happening faster and faster. Other things that came up this episode was the whole situation. Obviously, Fitz is kind of still dealing with the fact of what Mac said last episode. Because when Mac came to talk to him and Simmons, like when he was like, oh, we have a way of potentially saving Coulson, he didn't say we. He said Simmons Gemma has a way of saving Coulson. And it's like, oh, because I guess he figured if he said we, then most likely Mac might not be not willing to listen and stuff. So. And obviously Fitz being like, it's like, oh yeah, like Mac being like, Talbot's a problem. And then you have Fitz being like, yeah, another problem we have to fix, right? And it's like, yeah, they're not in a good place. But I think that mindset that Mac put in him last episode kind of put things in a different perspective, because he made Fitz kind of look at things differently, because it's like, Yo-Yo warned that trying to save Coulson is where things ended, but it's like, that's because we tried to save Coulson. Coulson wasn't there in the future, meaning we didn't save him. Maybe if we do save him, that will be the means of changing everything. It's kind of, the implications, the thoughts that they have. So, which even Jim was kind of like, it's kind of interesting coming from the person who doesn't really believe time can be changed. But I think it's because of what Max said, like things have to be, probably trying to decide the man he wants to be. Like, this is the time to look at things from a different perspective, especially like under the circumstances, because this could be the key to changing everything. It could mean finally changing the future. It could be like also meaning saving close friend and ally to them, you know? So, but the problem with that is when it comes to this centipede, it is the only one. So they have one choice. They can either save Coulson or they can save the world. And the fact is that Yo-Yo said try. Maybe that means that even when they try to save Coulson, because that means that's how the other world ended, because they tried to save Coulson, it means that it didn't work. That they wasted it on Coulson and the world ended up getting destroyed for it anyway. Potentially is kind of what that's implying. So, I mean, that's a heavy choice on everybody's shoulders. Like, obviously everyone wants to save Coulson, but this is the world we're talking about. Also, completely skipped over. I meant to go back to it's the whole Daisy situation. Cassius trying to make her go like, oh yeah, realize that like, oh, humans are beneath you and stuff like that. They treat you as an outsider because he's like, even amongst, you know, my people, I'm kind of an outsider. And he's like, you know, come be with me. Like, you can be my protege, my apprentice, a situation. But like, Daisy sees it. It's like, I'm just a weapon to you. Put her in that mind meld situation where it's like, oh, she's still unconscious, but transferred her mind there so they can talk, so he can break her. But she's like, yeah, I know about, you know, talking about, you know, my future. I know yours. I know about your two idiotic sons and what happens to them. They died. And it's like, Knight's kind of sticking that two into a bit. And then she goes, you are forgetting one thing. I am strong, because I am the destroyer of worlds after all. And she breaks the thing. So I guess even in her unconscious state without using her hands, it's implied, I guess she's kind of like sending her power through her body, kind of vibrating, because that's kind of how her power could work. Because because originally that's how her power would work initially, but until she got the gauntlets from like VIDS, because her power would backlash and it would break the bones in her arms every time she used her power. So I guess she kind of uses a small surge throughout her body and it cracks that. So that was pretty badass. Even unconscious, she broke free and kicked some serious ass. So that's mega impressive. But like I said, it also goes back to that thing of, what do they do? Because other means of stopping Talbot don't seem possible. He can't be reached, because that's the point, the conclusion everyone's kind of come to. It's like, it might be too late to try and save him. We're going to need like a permanent solution. Like, even Mac agrees, even though he's like, maybe we can find another way, but it's like, even then he's kind of admitting like, we have to, if it comes down to it, Mac wants to be the one to do it. But that might just end up being what ends up getting Mac potentially killed, because he's not there in the future. Also, like I said, Daisy isn't there in the future. So what happens there too? Like, that's at least, I mean, we know Mac dies at some point, but we still don't know Daisy or Coulson's future either. Everyone else's, we know about them. Also, like, the fact of the matter is, when we saw the future, we didn't see Deke. Obviously that would be spoilers, but we didn't see him. So him being here now might potentially be a situation where it's like, maybe because they changed Deke's heart and his mind in the future, and he actually came to care for Daisy rather than just caring for himself, that kind of led him to being where he is now. So that could be a symbol of like, oh yeah, he's there. Or once again, it could be a symbol of like, he doesn't survive this. Because once again, it's like, oh yeah, like once the future has changed, he disappears from history, because it kind of breaks the loop. The only reason why he's here is because that future still exists. But, or maybe it could be like, oh, now that he's in the past, he's protected from it. But that kind of seems like that might be a paradox situation. So at the end of this, I'm getting feeling like Deacon might die, but we'll ultimately kind of have to wait and see. But I mean, I don't see any means of kind of taking down Talbot, because even Yo-Yo can't get too close to him just because of his natural abilities. Guns definitely don't work. He just swirls bullets around him and fling them back at you. So it's like, how do you, like I said, I feel like the only one strong enough to potentially fight him is Daisy. And even then, you have to be careful that Daisy doesn't get absorbed by him, because that's kind of his big thing now. So I did like the perspective that Matt kind of made, where it's like, because Yo-Yo was kind of like, oh, he's a villain now. It's like, yeah, but to every villain, they're a hero in their own story. So, you know, his drive to fix everything, because he blames himself for being under Hydra control, failing his family. He thinks like, you know, he failed on many different fronts, and he feels like he can make up for it now by being the hero, being the one who saved the world, still trying to be the man that his son George could be proud of. But like I said, he's just not in the right state of mind. And obviously he takes Robin and her mom, which these could be the circumstances that lead to her mom dying. But like, Robin saw him crack open the earth and pull up the gravitonium, and now she's going to lead him there. which for her, she's already seen it all play out, so she knows exactly what's going to happen. So she's just kind of letting things continue on. Like I said, it's been a question the entire time. How will this play out? Will things change? Will they stay the same? And if they do change, will it be for the better? Or will it be for the worse? Will Coulson survive this or not? It legitimately could go either way. And I'm super excited to see what goes down, because next week's episode is in fact the season finale. I think I was looking, and literally the name of the episode is literally The End. So how will it all end? We will have to wait and see. But I will say, I'm hoping that Coulson does survive for everyone's sake, but also because it's like, yo, you and May just became a thing. It would suck major ass if you just became a major thing just for them to lose you. And also, like I said, hopefully it doesn't turn into the situation like I said, we could potentially end up turning Coulson into an enemy. Hence why, trying to save Coulson ended up being the end, because it inadvertently turned him into something worse potentially. That's still kind of like out there, so who knows? Like I said, we will have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.